Okay, so we have started the recording. Once again, quick disclaimer that this call is being recorded and we place our recordings on our YouTube channel. If you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now. And with that, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. And today we are talking about Azure Site Recovery. I mean, um, here is a quick summary agenda here. I mean, Azure Site Recovery is not something, a new service. It has been around for quite some time, but there were quite a few updates since the last time we looked at it. So I thought it's good to share it with the community. Okay. So with that, let's first of all, before we go into site recovery, and I just want to give you a heads up. Today's session, we will have a little more slide, and come our demo is pretty canned in a sense. So, but we'll get to it because I just want to have content that I will try to go through, or we will just jump into the demo if not, if we are running on time, out of time. Okay. In any case, it's key to have your planning about your business continuity. No matter what type of application it is, you have to plan for it because that's how you're gonna minimize the downtime. So, what are some of the terms that we use? We have disaster recovery, which is basically in the case of a failure, how you bring your application up. You have the backup. It's age old thing. If your data is corrupted or you lose your data, how you recover um, at the original site or a new site that data from a backup that you have made earlier. And then you have high availability. High availability is that your application is always running. I mean, you have multiple um, workload deployed at multiple locations, and somehow you make sure that if one site is down, other site is up. Okay. And I just want to make sure that everybody is clear. Azure Site Recovery is to do about disaster recovery, is not about high availability. High availability is about active replicas. Like you have a site running in East US2, you have running in Europe, you have running in Asia, just to make sure that if one site goes down, a site in another region is up. Okay. So that's about high availability. High availability, it's very expensive. It can be very expensive. Okay, and because you have active replicas running, so that's something to keep in mind. On the other hand, disaster recovery is about hot and warm or active standby. So you have an active site running, and then you have a standby site where you have a skeleton infrastructure like storage and network, not the compute, because compute is the most expensive part. And you can bring that site up quickly based on the failure of the original site. If that original site failed, you can fail over to the new site. This is for uh, depending on the definition of mission critical, that will not be suitable for sites which have to be running all the time. Okay, but still, tier one, tier two sites, depending on your requirement, it will be a good fit. Okay, so how Azure Site Recovery comes into picture? Azure Site Recovery is Microsoft's first party application, which allows you to replicate your infrastructure into another region. So basically, it helps minimize the downtime. And the goal is you have your infrastructure in one region. You can set up Azure Site Recovery to replicate your data and kind of information about your infrastructure to another region. It creates the disks. It can constantly replicate the data to the other side. And as soon as I mean, you can do a test failover, manual failover, automatic failover to the other side. At that moment, it hydrates your compute infrastructure. Okay. And just keep in mind, depending on how many servers you have, it can be a few minutes or a few hours. So if you have a few servers, it can be up in a few minutes. But if you have, I have seen some customer with hundreds of servers. In that case, when they have tested it, it takes It may take an hour or more, depending on how you're bringing up those server, and we will talk about it. Okay. So, and some of the key concept about disaster recovery, recovery point objective. This is in terms of data, how, and it this kind of the shorter it is, the good it is. It means the maximum amount of data that you lose in the case of a disruption. Okay, and RTO is the maximum amount of time that you can get back to get your business app back to normal. Okay, so these are the two things, and of course, and this is a high level diagram. So the way it works is, behind the scene, you have an ASR agent. So when you set up a Azure Site Recovery for a virtual machine or set up virtual machine, an ASR agent is deployed. And what that agent does, as soon as data is about to be written from the memory to the disk, it makes a copy of it and send the data, make a copy of it and send that copy to the other side. Other side mean the secondary side where you have set up the replica. Okay, and that's how it does, and it at it's at the high level. And as you can see, you can do recovery from on-prem to Azure, Azure to Azure, VMware is also supported. So all of these um, um, kind of infrastructure type is supported. And this is basically, just keep in mind, this is basically for infrastructure. And let's say that if you have infrastructure as a service, let's say if you have infrastructure as a service and at the same time you have platform as a service as well. I mean, it's a mixed solution and you are using everything. Then there are ways possible where you can um, basically have a combined strategy, and we will talk about it. That's a recovery plan that really helps. Okay, and this is very important. I mean, this is the beauty of this solution. It allows you to have different types of consistency. Very sorry, a question. Okay. So the basic is crash consistency. So it takes snapshot every 5 minutes, and that's how it makes sure that your data stays consistent. In the case of application, this is specifically for the databases, okay, where you have, where crash consistency is not important. You have to make sure that you're storing the checkpoint information and your data is, the database is in a consistent state. So that's where it works in snapshots of the data and data in memory. So make sure your application is consistent. That's, as I said, is specifically for databases. In the case of multiple VMs, you can make sure that you can set up recovery points across VMs. So that's uh, uh, kind of another feature of this service. And this is a slide a bit old, but just to give you an idea, Windows, Linux, um, and the before it wasn't supporting. At one point, initially, it did not support encrypted disk. That support is there as well, and so that's that. And of course, Azure hybrid usage benefits are there as well. And these are some of the key features that I definitely want to talk about. For example, and let's go through one by one. First of all is ability to support private link. So now you can connect to it through private link. And this comes in real handy when you are um, you're because there's a storage account behind the scene with site recovery. um, you are basically at that moment when you are using private link, your traffic is going over a private endpoint anyways. The traffic between your the replication traffic anyways, that goes over Microsoft backbone, but now your communication with um, site recovery happens also over a private endpoint. So that's a big uh, thing that is now available. Then the recovery plan. I think this basically allows you to orchestrate your recovery. Think of it. Normal applications are not kind of just one tier. There are multiple tiers in the application. You have front end, you have database, you have um, middle tier, and you may have other servers as well, or maybe this application has some supporting services that it needs to run, and they have to become up in an order. So maybe the lowest tier should come up first. You should test it out, then you bring up the next tier, then you bring up the top tier, then you test out. And some of the things you may have to do it manually. It's infrastructure as service. How you do that? That's where recovery plan comes into picture, that allows you to do these in steps. And when I was talking about, let's say that you have a past database, okay, that you are restoring. Since you have runbook support, you can basically um, uh, you know uh, um, automate that task. Let's bring up the database, and that's a past database, okay, and then bring up the rest of the infrastructure. And there may be a PaaS service also running an app service or logic app or something. You can use runbooks to do that as well. So that's my point. With this one, you can combine this as a comprehensive recovery plan and bring this thing up. So this can, your application comes up um, as one, not as kind of a broken pieces where some parts come up before they have to and they are not functioning and you're getting all errors all over the place. Okay. Any questions? Okay. One key feature, zone to zone DR. Okay. So let's say that your application is cannot be, I mean, it's not using VM scale set or something, and you cannot deploy it in multiple zone. Like if one zone goes down, I have VM running in another zone. Let's say that it has to run on a couple of virtual machines that have to be in the same zone, you know, because they have to be run at the same time and they're part of the same application. What you can do is you can do zone to zone DR. So you can fail over to another zone. This is good in a scenario where you have to do, with kind of, you have to meet some compliance requirement and you have to have, you have to have support data residency in a certain location and things like that. So that is helpful there. So zone to zone DR. Okay, and that's the deployment planner. That's another thing that you can give you information about, like how much bandwidth you will need. And before you start embark on your journey, it can give you all that information. Another thing is about encryption. So it supports encryption in transit as well as encryption at rest. Azure Disk Encryption is supported, and you can bring your own keys. So you can use customer managed keys to provide, and a number of customers want to bring their own keys and put them in Key Vault and use that. So that's another thing that you can use that. Of course, Azure automation is a key part for doing recovery plans and run books and things like that. Okay. So it now supports encrypted disk, as I said before. If some of the disk, let's say that you have certain disks that are backed up in a different way or some sort, you can opt out in this one, like you say, don't back up, or for a particular VM, don't replicate those disks because I'm backing up in a different way. Okay, finally, you have the proximity placement group support. So with that, you can actually say that, okay, I'm running these VMs here in a proximity placement group, these VMs, and just to give you an idea, proximity placement groups put VMs on the same kind of host, the virtualization host. So they are close to each other, and to reduce latency, you know, they are for application which are very latency sensitive. Okay, I don't recommend it for any other application, but if there are certain scenario where it's a few millisecond of latency can do a big deal. In that case, that's where you want to use that, and that's this thing. It has support of proximity placement groups. So on the when the failover happens, it will put VMs in the proximity placement group. It can put virtual machines in a proximity placement group on the other side. Okay, and finally, in regards to the capacity reservations, yes, you can make capacity reservations and use those reservations when you do the failover. Okay, so that's some of the. So I think we are right on time. So let's do a quick demo. Any questions? Okay, so first of all, let's go in here. And what I want to show you is, so first of all, you need to have, I mean, there are different ways you can approach this site recovery. I want to show you a very simple way. Let's say I have this virtual machine. Okay. I'm going to go onto this virtual machine, and what I can do is can go on to disaster recovery, and I can target. So I can go directly from here. There are different ways you can achieve that. You can create a recovery service vault and go from there. But this way is kind of very simple where you can go in and you can go into, let's say I want to go into the North Central US and advanced settings. So it's going to ask me what you want to do. I'm going to use the existing resource group that I have, and there is a virtual network there. It's a single instance. I don't want availability set or availability zone. And then you see that proximity placement group. I don't want to do it. That's not and I'm just going to use the default, and then next review, and I'm going to start the replication. So that's a very simple way. Like I went from directly from the virtual machine, and I am just going there, and from the VM, I am setting it up. So that's that. There is another way where you create a recovery services vault. So let's take a look at it. And I'm gonna look at a recovery service vault while this thing is happening. So this is a recovery services vault that I have created. And if I see replicated item, yes, it shows me already an item that is being replicated. So I can start from replicated. I mean, I can start from here as well. Like, and I can say start site recovery, enable replication, and then I can pick up my virtual machines and I can start from there as well. So both sides. If you have one or two machines, I think starting for the virtual machines is okay. But if you have a single machine starting from the VM is okay. But if you have multiple machine application that requires detailed plan, I would suggest start from the site recovery side and start from a recovery plan. So you can go step by step into each of the thing and do your planning. Okay. So you saw that we set up replication. It takes some time because it will copy your disk over there, set everything up, and we have only 30 minutes for our presentation. So that's why I am gonna use a technique like kind of baking the kind of a cake. So I can show you replicated items. So that's how it's gonna look like. That's a replicated item. This is the name of the replicated item, NZAPL. APL. This is the VM that I've already done that is been replicated on the other side. If I go into this VM, it will show me what different things are. There are some errors. Basically, what happened was this was I turned off this VM to save cost, and you will see some errors. But look at the latest recovery points. These are all the recovery points every 5 minutes. It's taking a recovery point, and that's all you see here. So these are the last five recovery points. And here is the most interesting thing. One, of course, you can disable replication, so you can remove it from here. This is a test failover. So it allows you to do a test failover. So what you can do is you can go in and you can basically test it out. So before we take a look at it, you can see the general properties. What is the target location, target subscription, what type of compute that is. It's a single instance. What type of network that is. You see failover settings and all that. So everything is there. So any questions at this point? Okay. So what you can do here is you can do a test failover. So with that test failover, what they recommend is that, yes, sorry, I think there is a question. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Kedar this side. When we are replicating machines, so for example, if I have a VNet and in the subnet I have energy rules, I have some firewall rules. So how
Mhm.
what I need to consider for when we are using site recovery, because
Excellent
I get
question.
some errors. Yeah.
Yes, yes. No, no, excellent question. What you will have to do is you will have to use a recovery plan, because the recovery plan will allow you, uh, I'm sure you see in the slide deck, it allows you to run automation and run PowerShell script. So with that, you can set up all the things on the other side. So basically, you are just not, in that case, you're just not doing the failover. Since you're going through the plan, so what you're going to do is you set the network, you set the rules, then bring up the VM. Got it?
Okay, so before using this one, my network should be in place,
Yeah,
right?
yes, yes.
Okay,
So
okay,
yes, you
okay.
have, and you can set up all the rules. There may be something, there may be some firewall that you want to run, but you don't want to deploy it before you deploy your VM because firewall is expensive. You know that? So you can do that with that automation runbook. So all of those things really help in kind of bringing your application up end to end. Okay. Any other
Okay, got
questions?
it.
Right. Any other questions? So by the way, what it will ask you if you try to do a test failover in the same VNet, it gives you a warning that use a different VNet for test failover because you may have same VNet. There may be some other thing going on. So they ask you to use like a just like a test environment, use a test VNet. So you can pick that VNet and then you can just click on it and start doing the test failover. Okay. So as simple as it is, once you start the test failover, it will take some time before before the other VM appears on the other side. And that's why I am gonna once again show you a test failover that have already started. So here in the virtual machines, let me go back here. These are my virtual machines. This is the virtual machine I have. And as you can see, um, if we go into the disaster recovery, it already have I have a disaster recovery set up and I've already have the test failover started. Okay. And just to kind of prove out a point, if I go in here and this is I'm logged in directly into the machine, and if you have there is a file called demodata.txt, and this is some text in it. So the VM came up on my original side. I created this file, and then what I'm doing is I am doing a test failover on the other side, and on the other side, look what it has done is, let's go into the virtual machine. It has created this test VM. Look, this is on the other side. This is for the because of the test failover. So once I go into this VM, what I can do is I can do connect, and I am going to use Bastion to connect. So go to Bastion, and I'm going to provide my username and password, and let's connect. And it will take a second to bring up the Bastion window. So this is the Bastion window, and it is connected. And if we do a directory, look, there is this demodata.txt, and so the point is you just want to test like, okay, I failed over, the VM is the same, everything looks good, and at that point, what I can do is I can go in here and I can go into this particular VM, and um, in this recovery, and I can clean up the test. So I say clean up test failover. And at this moment, I mean, it's just ask you to put something, testing is complete, just verify. And what it will do is it will remove that virtual machine from there or anything. So if you have, I mean, a recovery plan that is doing that, I mean, that recovery plan will reverse run and it will remove the things that you have deployed over there. Okay. So that's all I wanted to share. Any questions? We have 1 more minute. Okay. If there are no more questions, I will give everybody their 1 minute back and hope to see everybody next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Have a great day and a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.